Hey YouTube, how you doing? This is Teach MA Dude coming to you with an exciting video where I'm actually going to be taking a look at some posts from a popular social media platform, Reddit, and I'm going to be reacting to those from a real Massachusetts teacher's perspective. Before we get started, please feel free to hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can see all the new videos that I post. And quick unsolicited plug, be sure you check out one of my favorite new YouTube channels that I've come across, Teacher Therapy. She's really great, excellent persona, really brings a lot of energy, and I think you'll love her channel. So please click to subscribe to her. I'll make sure I put a reference to her in the information below. All right, so our very first post: should I use the rest of my days before I quit for good? So this is someone used a throwaway account because they don't want their coworkers to know about what's going on. They say they're quitting the profession at the end of the year and they won't be needing the remainder of their sick days. They have about 6 left. They're considering using the rest of them before they disappear for good. Should they do it? My personal advice, yes, 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 yes. Please use those sick days before you quit. If you don't use them, you'll lose them. You know, sad story, in my previous job, I probably had more than 40 days, and I did lose them all when I left. So I would recommend, especially if you have only 6 and you're going to be done in June, I would definitely try to use the rest of those days. So definite yes. All right, our next reaction: students being Karens and essentially asking to speak to the manager. So we have someone tagged this as humor. It's a pretty funny one. So student asked during class if they could speak to an assistant principal about the way we were treating them, and I'm assuming that referring to the teachers. What were we doing? Ask them to do their work and follow expectations that we've had all darn year. These are middle schoolers, and I can't believe their entitlement. Yeah, unfortunately, one thing that I found out, and I talk about this in the triangle of accountability slash responsibility video that I created, definitely recommend you take a look at that. That, you know, a lot of times, unfortunately, students have a tendency to try to point the finger at someone else. And that's kind of like this phenomenon of social psychology, where we will tend to blame our own failures on external sources, but then take credit for, you know, when we succeed, say like, this is something I did to succeed. So unfortunately, like, this happens all too often where the students are looking to get the teacher in trouble, or, you know, put some kind of accountability on the teacher, you know, when things aren't going well for themselves. I've had it happen throughout my career, and even leading to parents really like trying to unload on me big time. So yeah, unfortunately, it is a little bit humorous. Hopefully, this didn't actually happen. But one thing I learned recently through looking at posts on Reddit is apparently this kind of stuff happens throughout the world. Even I was seeing a school, I think it was either China or Vietnam, where it constantly trying to get the teacher fired over stuff they allegedly did. That was pretty shocking. All right, this next one. I used to be a full-throated advocate for one-to-one technology for all students. It's taken only 1 year of teaching in a rich school to completely change my mind. So this person's saying the kids in my school destroy their school laptops. They punch the screens, slam them shut, remove the keys, doing all kinds of stuff to destroy them. One kid's even had his palm rest destroyed. And this is an unfortunate thing that I see happening sometimes too. You know, I'm in a current situation where it's one-to-one iPads, and I'm seeing like iPads with cracked screens, iPads just willy-nilly falling to the floor, and it's kind of like, oh well. You know, my district's pretty good. They purchase more durable cases. Everyone has to have a case, but they purchase more durable cases for individuals who they think are going to be more at risk of really damaging their iPad. But unfortunately, that's not a catch-all. And I really think you have to take a strong statement of, you know, we don't have extras, you know, we don't have like all this, like, you have to take care of the stuff we give you. In my personal opinion, like, I believe that the iPad away or the technology away should be the rule, and the technology out should be the exception. In my first year, I got into this, you know, kind of phenomenon of, let's get our, you know, we had Chromebooks, so let's get our Chromebooks out right at the beginning of class. as like a routine, and I found that it often really brought a lot of distractions out, and I was really fighting those devices the whole class. So you really have to be careful here. All right, here's another one. Should individuals with no teaching experience be allowed to be principals? Wow. So this individual had a teacher get fired, a first year teacher. They said it was due to classroom management and low NWEA. I'm assuming that's kind of some kind of test scores. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. So they're saying the principals in their first year from a social work background, not a former teacher, so they don't have any teaching experience. They really take issue with why they let this teacher go, especially because they seem to have had a pretty difficult class. And the mentor teacher isn't really readily available to support her. And they're wondering, hey, am I naive? Is this something that, hey, this is just me, or is it something that's common? And do you think people who haven't been in the classroom should be permitted to run the schools they're responsible for? So, pretty loaded question. In Massachusetts, depending on when you get your administrator's license, you now are required to have some successful experience, I believe, under a teaching license. I don't know. The problem is that with a lot of older folks who've been in the profession for a while, a lot of those requirements weren't there, and even the new PAL kind of portfolio that you have to pass to become an administrator, that's only about 10 years old. So many administrators who've been in the game for a while don't have to actually do that to get into the position they're in. And the PAL is important because it involves like practicing supporting teachers, it practicing, data-driven solutions and really important things that administrators have to do. But again, in my profession, I have had some administrators with very little actual teaching experience. And, I feel for them. The problem is, when you're not in a classroom and you've never been in a classroom, it's really hard for you to relate to a lot of the challenges that teachers are facing on a daily basis. And, that I've tried to kind of chronicle so far in this channel. As you see here, there's like a reference to a mentor teacher. And, I do think the mentoring, which is required of newer teachers, can be valuable, but it's only as valuable as the program's engaging, and there's not really heavily articulated requirements about how engaging and how hands-on those have to be. So it's really a hit or miss kind of thing. So definitely a tough question. Again, in my belief, I think having that classroom experience is important. And for this individual, I've heard that there's research saying that it can take as many as 7 years, for a administrator to really hit their stride. So this is a first year principal. You might not see really strong results coming out for a few more school years. All right, this individual is asking about using evaluations for merit pay. So how do you feel about using classroom observation to determine merit-based pay for teachers? Our school is doing that this year as a response to our concerns about low pay and rising costs of living. It's been the most stressful of my 10-year career, and it's nearing the end of April. We still don't know how much we're going to get paid until closer to the summer. Every single teacher is absolutely done, and morale is the lowest I've ever seen. 10 plus teachers have quit this year alone. Obviously, I don't know what percentage of the whole teachers that is, but 10 quitting is quite a lot. In my experience, have never had that many teachers quit in a year. As I said in a previous video about, understanding some of the pros that you want to look for in a contract, I absolutely unequivocally am anti-merit-based pay. I do understand the importance of ensuring that your teachers are delivering high quality instruction, but again, very anti-merit-based pay. As I showed in that video, merit-based pay is almost always used in Massachusetts in districts that have been taken over by the state at some point in time. And not only do they offer lower salaries than what we would call step-based pay or experience and education-based pay, the typical salary grid, but they really push hard and they're really all about classroom performance. And the problem with that is that leaves open a lot of subjectivity to administrators. So if the administrator decides, we don't really like how you did, if you have an administrator who's kind of like biased towards you, or you have an administrator that really is all about keeping costs under control for whatever reason, I can see it being really easy to slip in a not really favorable evaluation and use that to justify not giving you that raise. So what it seems like here is it's like, okay, we're offering some better pay, but on the flip side, you have to, be giving us these good evaluations, right? Almost like you need to be giving us some kind of return on investment. So, again, I understand the importance of pushing good teaching, and I understand the, why people might want to connect evaluations to pay. Really disagree and really feel for this individual here. They've been in, the profession almost a decade, and this has them really wanting to quit. So a lot of sympathy there. Grievances, just so you know, are when you file a complaint because you feel that your contract has been violated if you have a teaching contract. So this person was told by the lawyer that works for the school. So typically the school will have a lawyer that represents them, and the union will have a lawyer of their own. So the school's lawyer, which would be the one who'd probably review the grievances, joined their meeting, their typical meeting. Looks like they've got regular meetings between the union officials and the school administration, which is very good practice. They said basically their grievances aren't real grievances. I don't know what that means. And to stop sending them to the board, they spent about 10 minutes telling all the things that don't qualify as grievances, but they didn't tell us who we could go to with the problems when our admins and the superintendent blatantly ignore us when we try to talk to them. The lawyer owned up to the fact that if we file a grievance that isn't real, they'll forward it to the administrator, and that it's about so they can deal with it. So per her, the board is not there to tell our admin and superintendent how to do their job or to step in if they aren't doing their job. And today was the first good day I've had at work in months until our staff meeting. So it really put them in a bind. So I think there's a lot to unpack here. So first of all, if you feel that your contractual rights are being violated, you should go to the union. Typically, unions will have someone who's in charge of grievances, and you do want to have a conversation with that individual and see if it's grievable. But the reality is, if the contract is being violated, grievances are the only way that you really are going to really forcefully stand up to the terms of the contract. Especially given the events of the past few years, one big thing that I've heard unions push hard is that we really have to stand up to the terms of the contract, right? In some ways, when I think about working with the kids, it's this idea of the kids are constantly testing the expectation. So you set the expectation, those kids are going to test it. And that's kind of human nature, to the extent that administration, or we might call them management, is going to test the expectations of any contract, and they're going to see how much they can push back against the contract. I actually disagree about the thing they said about the board. I do feel that a school committee does have the obligation to keep the superintendent in check. The school board is responsible for giving a review of the superintendent and deciding the employment of the superintendent. They're the ones who typically offer the superintendent the job. So I do think that the board plays an important oversight role. And if a school board isn't willing to call out a superintendent's, policies or behavior or approach, then that's an issue of complacency that I would be concerned about. It's really too bad that this person, didn't have this good experience. It seems like they say at the end, say no to charters. So it seems like they might be from a charter school. Good luck to you on that. I'm not sure if I did a video on difference between charters, but that's definitely something I'd love to dive into because they're a very divisive issue, especially in Massachusetts. I actually like this one. My students weren't expecting that they were expected to do work and just not just do whatever they want. So basically the breakdown is this person teaches remedial classes, and that's for students who typically are behind grade level. And they're putting it based off how they do on the state assessment. So in Massachusetts, it's the Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System, or MCAS. We have something like that in some schools, like an MCAS prep class. So if they take the test and it shows they're below grade level, they're placed into this person's class. Needless to say, I think they were trying to get at, they're not everyone's top picks. And they think a lot of students hate my class and find it boring. But they say it's because of how they run the class. So they say, I'm a remedial teacher, but that's not code for just goof off and talk all period. They have strong expectations for the kids. And I actually think this is a very, very, very good practice, and I really strongly support this. So, a lot of times, people that are lower level, that are remedial, that are on those lower tracks are often written off as not serious. And I think that we fall into this pattern of kind of what we might call a soft bigotry of low expectations, where, by default, we hit them with these low expectations and say, we're not going to push them as hard. We're not going to expose them to that rigor. We're not going to really give them the high quality of education they deserve because, like, they're the lower level kids. And I think it's really good that this teacher is putting strong expectations, high expectations on the students. These students expect just to go into a remedial class and put their head down. And this teacher's saying, I care about you enough that I'm not going to let you put your head down. I want you to try to learn. And, this might not be the most fun class of all time. You're not going to necessarily, you might not enjoy this class. But look, I've got rules because I care about you, because I want to see you be successful. And, you might not necessarily take what you learn from my class into the real world, but being able to respect expectations, being able to do some of the skills that I teach you in this class will somehow translate over. So I think this is a really great post. As someone who teaches special education, this really resonates with me because I've had to push back against a lot of really deficit mindset of, why are you having your kids do this? Like, these are like, why are you having your kids, with some kind of like emphasis as if special education students don't get to have high expectations too. So this really resonated with me. I love to see this post. Most outrageous requests or demands from parents. I've seen whole videos on this, and believe me, I've had my share. So this morning I got an email from a parent requesting that our whole school sports carnival be changed to another date because her son would not be able to attend school that day due to an appointment. And it's the last carnival because he'll finish elementary school at the end of the year. She was dead serious in her request that we move something that impacts 4 children just for her son. Made me wonder what other completely outrageous things parents have asked. I'm not going to get into this entirely, but yes, unfortunately, parents can have some of those really out there asks. I honestly think that this was all like in good like spirit, and like a parent who really wants to have those opportunities be open for their child. And I think a lot of parents are really looking out for their kids, but I don't really think they sometimes fully understand like the nuances of what they're asking for. And I really would be concerned about like the expectation that, they're going to move something for 400 kids just for one kid. I think about, what if they say yes? I'm like, what's going to happen? This is elementary. So if this kid's leaving elementary and these parents just believe that the school's going to push aside something for 400 kids just for their child, like regardless of the circumstances, that appointment could be movable potentially. But like the fact that you're not going to try to move that appointment, but then, and I don't know, maybe it's not movable, but just the idea that you wouldn't try to move that and you would expect the school to bend over backwards. I worry about what the next few years look like for this kid, and what you're teaching that kid about how to handle some of the conflicts you're going to have in life. Like in life, you're going to be faced with missing opportunities based on your own choices. And that's unfortunate. It's happened to me plenty of times, happens to everyone. But, really kind of takes me taken back. And again, I would love, to encourage you all. I don't have any really salient stories that I can think of off the top of my head, but, I would really encourage you to watch. There's a lot of funny videos online that kind of in this vein. So I thought I'd put that up there. All right, PD meeting bingo. PD is professional development. What actions occur in every staff meeting that would be good to put on a bingo card? So they have sleepy staff, last minute questions that prevent anyone from leaving. Grading is more than listening, and then buzzword usage. I would be lying if I said I never did it, not going to specify when and where I've done it. But yeah, I think in like a good faith, in good spirits, and keeping it funny and keeping it entertaining. I see where they're coming from here. So, I like some of these ideas. Sleepy staff. I've seen like, union grabs us, just when we're trying to leave, stuff like that. People grading, they say grading more than listening. So the idea that people are just going to do their grading during the meeting, seen that happen a lot. Buzzword usage, so we think like SEL, trauma informed, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I can see those all each having their own bingo squares. Things like we care about you, I didn't plan for that, We have to put the students first. I think it's really, you kind of learn the buzzwords that your admins use and you kind of feed into there. So we had starting it late, cringy icebreakers, think, pair, share with your partner. So they're trying to model kind of some of the practices you might want to use in your classroom, emails, lesson planning, someone saying this could have been put in an email, discussion about what to cook for dinner, some of those kind of like lighthearted, kind of cringy, almost like toxic positivity conversations that it's like, look, I get what you're saying, but like we all have things to do with our lives. So like, let's do this PD or let's move on. All right. So very funny one here. All right, last one. Email at home, yes or no? I thought I'd close with this one. So do you check or answer emails from your work email when you leave the school building? I want to be available to help my students if they email me, but getting parent or admin emails while I'm home always puts me in a bad mood. Is it worth it, or should I just log out of the email from my phone? So one of my pieces of advice, and I do not follow this whatsoever, I strongly advise that you do not hook your email up to your phone if you want to have a sense of sanity. I personally, and I again, for whatever reason, fall into having the email on my phone because I don't want to have, a deluge of emails to address the next day. If you don't want to be bothered by emails, keep them off your phone, personally. Secondly, I would advise that you do not answer emails outside of work hours unless they're absolutely vitally important. And there's no way that you can wait until the next day to do so. I think that, there's a couple reasons here. One, you need to maintain work-life balance for your own sanity. You need to be able to leave work at work and not worry that you're going to be stuck with, all this stuff to do at home. Right? That's for your own personal sanity. But also, I think that we have a duty, not me, or maybe at least a responsibility to really not set a tone that teachers are going to be responding to emails at all given times. Because it's kind of like the kids, right? Once the teacher thinks that or the parent that is, thinks that I'm going to respond to their email at, 9 p.m., they're going to say, well, what other teacher can I expect to respond to email at 9 p.m.? Fortunately, the district I'm working in now has a really strong expectation that is like teachers are not responsible for answering emails outside of work. And I think they do a good job communicating that. So I think for us, it's kind of as teachers kind of holding the line on that. But again, for this individual, would definitely take the email off the phone. I'd recommend, for professional reasons, I will always do this during breaks. I'll always put up a vacation notice saying, just want to let you know, the school is on vacation until X date, and X time. I'll be back in my office then. I'll answer the emails as soon as possible and leave it like that. So you give the person the message, you tell the person you're going to have to wait, unfortunately, and you take your vacation. You take the off time that you've worked hard to earn. All right, folks, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. This has been me reacting to some really interesting and funny Reddit posts online. If you like this, again, please feel free to like, subscribe, and leave comments if you think there's things I missed to keep that conversation going. I've really enjoyed bringing you these kind of Reddit posts and giving you my take on them. Hoping to do it again in the future. Thank you so much. This has been another episode of Teach MA Dude, and I'll see you next time.